Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Are we all on? Great, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. What an incredible introduction. We wanted to thank all and every single one of those taiko players who gathered on their own individually across the country, bringing out the heartbeats of the Japanese musical form known as taiko. We just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of those who performed that piece, blending the music of Western music with specifically Bruce Springsteen with taiko. And this is truly one of those kinds of meetings of East meeting West, but we are all Americans united in this great country of ours. Thank you so much for every one of us joining us today. I believe we have 152 participants right now. Just know that even though we are in these difficult times of pandemic, that our ties to the community remain strong, and hearing those drum beats of taiko is what unites us all. Welcome to every single one of you to Japanese Americans for Biden's kickoff. We are so happy, so subarashi happy. Watashi no Nihongo wa tottemo dame desu kedo. I'm going to speak English all the way through, and that we have so many people, so many of you joining us with us in this particular moment in history, a very, very important history, the most important election of our time. But before we get started, we'd like to gather together virtually to open with a moment of silence for the late passing for the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. May we spend 10 seconds in honor of her presence. Thank you so very much for your participating and for your blessings towards our late Supreme Justice, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And thank you again for joining us. For those of you who don't know, my name is Tamlyn Tomita, and I'll be your MC for this evening's event. I'm technically a Sansei, having been born on an American military base in Okinawa. My mother is an immigrant of Filipino, Okinawan, and Japanese descent. And my father is a second generation Nisei, born here in the great city of Los Angeles. Knowing that we are a multi-generational family, and my father is a police officer, my mother is a homemaker, we have all these stories of personality and personalness that we all recognize these times that we are in, and the country needs the right leaders to build. And that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are here together as a superhero team to build back better. And Japanese Americans for Biden believe in that mission. So thank you once again for each and every one of you for doing your part as our community, as our strong Japanese American community, to help elect the 46th president of the United States. But before we get through, there's a lot of work to do, but I have the pleasure of introducing you to the co-chairs behind JAs for Biden, two very, very passionate, committed individuals who are continually working as community leaders, Amy Watanabe and Floyd Mori. Amy and Floyd, will you please join me on screen?
Thank you for the introduction, Tamlyn. Not only is Tamlyn known for her roles in Karate Kid 2, The Joy Luck Club, and one of my favorites, The Good Doctor, she's also a passionate and dedicated activist who uses her voice and talent to make sure we have a seat at the table, and through November is helping to make sure we get out the vote. We're so honored to have you be our MC tonight and join us. Japanese Americans for Biden is truly a grassroots effort inspired by all of you here today. I have experienced firsthand the power and the diversity of our community from my time in DC, advocating alongside our Nikkei electeds and political leaders, working with community and business leaders across the country, and being back home in Los Angeles, marching alongside Little Tokyo activists and organizers. We are building a legacy that has its roots in redress and the Asian American movement. That incorporates new perspectives from Shin-Nikkei community and reveres the resilience of the Issei and Nisei that experience firsthand racist and hurtful policies that so many of today's communities are facing. This legacy guides us and empowers our community. Today is about getting Joe Biden elected and mobilizing our community. And if you haven't already, please visit our website. It's jasforbiden.com. That's JAS, the number 4, Biden.com. There you'll find voter resource information and upcoming information about our upcoming phone banks and events. And so please share that with your family and friends. And now it is my pleasure to introduce someone who is a trailblazer, a fearless leader, and a personal friend and mentor of mine, my co-chair, Floyd Mori. Floyd is one of the first 2 Japanese Americans elected to the California State Assembly. And earlier in his career, he served as the executive director of the Japanese American Citizens League and the CEO of the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies. Please allow me to welcome Floyd Mori.
Thank you, Amy. What a joy it's been for me to work with Amy over the years. We are not quite the same generation. She's much more of a techie and a seasoned expert on social media, while I listened to vinyl records long before they were cool. Well, I'm hoping that I can have a real retirement someday. There are still some very important matters that need to be done. So for me, it's a great pleasure to share the co-chairmanship role with Amy. And let me note that despite little differences in our ages, Amy has accomplished much at her young age. She was a key staff person for me when I was the CEO of Apex, where she was the program director. She currently serves on several community boards and has helped to produce the documentary Norman Mineta and His Legacy, An American Story. I've had a lifelong enjoyment of working with young leaders like Amy, who are carrying a load of responsibility far greater than we expected. Our community has moved beyond the barbed wire of World War II, and we see leaders and influencers like you in all aspects of life. So today I'm fired up because you're all with us to play a critical role in one of the most important elections in our lifetime. We can make a difference, all up and down the electoral process. So one of the critical aspects of any elections is fundraising, and Japanese Americans for Biden-Harris will be holding a fundraiser in the next couple of weeks. Specific information will be forthcoming about the event, but whether you plan to give now, before the fundraiser, at the event, or even afterwards, please give generously. The future of our great country is at stake. So thank you again for being with us today, and let me pass it back to Tamlyn, to introduce our next speaker. Tamlyn.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Amy Watanabe and Floyd Mori. You have been leaders in our communities for so long, and it breaks my heart that we're not able to hug and see each other face to face in person, but knowing that we can do this virtually means that we can spread our love, our mission, and our direction to a much wider audience. So I'm very, very thankful for the silver lining during this pandemic. Before we hear more about the presidential race, let's not forget that there's so much more at stake this year. We keep hearing about knowing who we're going to vote for president and vice president and down the ballot, but it's as important to know who our local leaders are. And so going to the mayoral races, the assemblyman races, up and down up to the House representative races, senatorial races, and all up. It's important to think of it also as well, that we are among the people and that we vote up the ballot, not just down, to make sure that we're all in this communal experience together. In addition to electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris this November, there are also other crucial races that will allow the Democrats to take control of the Senate, to take it back, and to hold the House. Our next speaker really needs no introduction. It always makes me cry because even though he served as secretary under 2 presidents, both Republican and Democratic, he has served as cabinet secretary. Today, this man is just a good guy. And he is always open to just being called by his first name. He reminds me of that wonderful television show that we're all familiar with, Friends, that we can all, Friends, not Friends. cheers, sorry, sir, cheers, that we can all collect as a community of friends at a bar and see that when this gentleman walks into the room, that he will acknowledge each and every one of us across the country with open arms, with an open mind and an open heart. Ladies and gentlemen, he really needs no introduction, but he will be sharing some personal impressions of what it was like to work with the Vice President under President Obama, Joe Biden. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all a regular guy, a good guy, and a great leader, Secretary Norm Mineta.
Well, thank you very much, Tamlyn, for that very wonderful, generous introduction. And thank you all who have joined us digitally during this unprecedented pandemic. It's dedicated citizens like you who make it possible for our community to make our voices heard in this election. There is so much at stake for our country right now. As someone whose family was interned during World War II, I recognize Trump's attempt to divide our country along economic lines, along party lines, and along racial lines. And we need to ensure that our worst instincts as a nation never take over. That is why we need to elect Vice President Biden for President of the United States. We need Joe Biden to get to work on putting our country back on track to once again make sure that we abide by the Constitution. I have worked with Joe both in Congress and while serving as a cabinet secretary. And I can tell you that Joe Biden is not only intelligent and empathetic, but also a man with many years of experience needed to help repair the divisions in our society. Not only can he sow our divisions, Joe is the right person to help us rebuild, to solve the problems with the pandemic, to push forward healthcare for all, and to ensure that everyone feels part of our beloved community. I am excited to be a part of this Japanese Americans for Biden group, and I know that we can make a big difference in November. We need to step up and ensure that our nation begins to heal and that future generations have a place at the table. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the right duo to bring us together and form a truly more perfect union for everyone. Thanks, Tamlyn.
You're so very welcome. Thank you so very much, Secretary Mineta, Norm, for being our fearless leader, our intelligent, compassionate, articulate, and fierce warrior in terms of what it means to serve our country, in terms of your service, not only for the great city of San Jose, but California, as well as the United States. Thank you so very much for your service. Thank you for being just someone to look up to and to hang out at the bar with. So thank you, Norm. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. I'm kind of nervous in introducing to her because she comes in a long line of strong women warriors. From the great state of Hawaii, the Honorable Mazie Hirono was elected to the House of Representatives in the class of 2006 and to the great United States Senate, which we need to win in 2012. Senator Hirono serves on the Senate committees on armed services, energy and natural resources, small businesses and entrepreneurship, and veterans affairs. Senator Hirono is a leader, a fearless, I want to swear at this point because I know she is used to doing that, a leader in the resistance to the Trump administration's attack on our core values, on our core American values, including undermining the judiciary, which she is going to be busy, very busy at work soon, degrading civil and voting rights, taking health care away from millions, and restricting immigration. As a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Senator Hirono will be at the forefront as the president, and the Senate Republican will be at the forefront, will be ramrodding another ultra-conservative justice to the Supreme Court before Election Day. Truly a role model in a line of Asian American service persons, Mineta, Matsunaga, Matsui, Mink, now comes Mazie. Please join me on screen, Senator Mazie Hirono.
Thank you so much, Tamlyn. And let's not forget Danny Noe. Tamlyn, I know that other people have mentioned that you are terrific on The Good Doctor, which my good friend Daniel Day Kim has something to do with. It is wonderful, aloha everyone, to be with all of you to mobilize, as though we need to mobilize, but we should stay mobilized, the Japanese American community to elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. This is the most consequential election of our time. The choices are clear. Are we going to vote for more chaos, cruelty, corruption, or are we going to vote for the Biden-Harris team that will bring the country together, that will not lie to us, which is a very important thing these days. We expect the president not to lie to the American people every single day. Someone like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, who will tell us the truth, who will lead us through this pandemic, who will take responsibility, not just to help us through the pandemic, but also the other crises that our nation is facing. So we have the healthcare crisis, the pandemic, we have an economic crisis. As a result of the pandemic, we have systemic racism in our country. And let's add number 4, because Joe Biden has that very important climate change. And so, we need a leader who will bring us together, not one who divides us every single day. And you mentioned, yes, we are about to see another Supreme Court nominee ram through, stealing yet another Supreme Court seat. And you can bet that Joe Biden would never nominate for the Supreme Court someone who will strike down the Affordable Care Act, because that is one of the major reasons that this nominee is going to be pushed through down our throats, because the Supreme Court will be taking up the Affordable Care Act, which provides healthcare to millions of people come November 10th. And you can bet that Joe Biden would never nominate someone to the Supreme Court who will endanger a woman's right to choose and cut back on the protections of Roe v. Wade, or even overturn Roe v. Wade altogether. Let me say a few words about my good friend Kamala Harris, because she serves on the Judiciary Committee with me, and we have fought together to stop Kavanaugh. Remember Kavanaugh? My gosh. And we're about to go into another huge battle over the next stolen Supreme Court seat. So Kamala, in the time that I've served with her, and she has a sense of humor, because on that Judiciary Committee, I sit right next to Cory Booker, and he sits next to Kamala Harris, and she said, oh, we three are the POCs, the people of color on that committee on the Democratic side. But she is fierce, she is focused, she is really, really smart, and we need her. And of course, she's Asian. All right. So she brings so much to the ticket, and she is a good friend. And let's add a really warm person. When I text her, she's in the midst of a campaign. She's a little busy, but she texts me back, and it's, the kind of team that we want, who cares, who will have empathy, who will take responsibility at a time when we have a president who acts as though the pandemic is all over. So I want to thank you, Tamlyn, and my good friend Norman Mineta. It's great to see him and to follow him, and everyone else who are participating in this effort, because Japanese Americans can make a difference. And we want to make a difference. We should make a difference. And we do that by organizing, by mobilizing, and most of all, to vote. So vote early, because you know what? We actually have to have a voting plan now, because voter suppression is going on all over the place. Voter intimidation is going to happen. We need to vote early, not often, vote early, and make sure that our vote counts. So thank you so much, all of you. We will be seeing each other over the course of the next few weeks. Take care, everybody. Aloha.
Mahalo nui loa and aloha, Senator Mazie Hirono.
Aloha.
Thank you so very much. What a wonderful message that you brought to us about all the things that we do have to remember. Healthcare, the economy, immigration and racial justice, and the environment. So thank you about those 4 points that we need to be focused on, and knowing that the Biden-Harris ticket will sail us through in achieving those goals. So thank you so very much.
Aloha.
Aloha. Shaka! And now I would like to introduce to you all a very, very special guest representing the Biden-Harris campaign. She is the Director of Surrogates, Michelle Kwan. You all know her because she is a hero in our nation, having been the most decorated skater in United States figure skating history with 2 Olympic medals, 5 world titles, and 9 US titles. But her skating career was only the beginning of all her accomplishments. And we are so proud to have her as the Director of Surrogates for the Biden-Harris campaign. She has built upon that career in international relations, diplomacy, and politics. And since being named a public diplomacy ambassador in 2006, when she was still a young baby in those ice skating tights, by Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice. So having worked with a Republican as well as the Democratic administration, Michelle Kwan has continued to be involved in the Obama administration and currently in the Biden-Harris campaign, and continues to be involved in politics on a variety of additional projects. So ladies and gentlemen, it is our true honor on behalf of JA's for Biden to introduce to you all, Michelle Kwan.
Thank you so much, Tamlyn. You're doing such an amazing job being the MC. This is so awesome to be here with all the distinguished guests on this amazing Zoom call. Like you said, Tamlyn, I wish we could all see each other, give hugs. I know, virtual hugs. But soon we will be able to do that. There are only 38 days left. Everybody say it out loud. 38 days left, just a little over a month. But there is yet so much to do. We are at the last stretch. I was very proud to have joined the campaign from the beginning. And, being an athlete, I have to say that, I always think in sports analogies, it's like a marathon. We're at the last 3 miles. It's the toughest miles. You can't look at the polls. They're changing all the time. And they are getting tighter and tighter in certain battleground states. And you also, like Floyd said, you can't look at the numbers. We have to continue to donate, contribute what you can. I know that we shattered records in August, I think raising over $350 million online, doing virtual finance events, grassroots events, you name it. It's all because of you, but we have to. We're competing against somebody. Again, sports analogy, we're competing against somebody who we all know we cannot trust and who will lie. So we just have to step up here. Certainly, Vice President Biden and Kamala are an incredible dynamic duo. They will be ready to tackle on day one, help unify our country, of a Biden and Harris administration. I just like saying that, Biden-Harris administration. So much better than what we have now. As we all know, representation really matters. And we should want our elected officials to not just look like us, but to also speak to, with, and for us. And I have to say that when Senator Harris joined the ticket, it was super exciting. I'm sure all of you were super excited too. I know that every little girl and woman and can see a little bit of themselves in Senator Harris, especially for, young Black, Asian girls, young women of color across the country who dreams of serving their country too. These elections to me are very personal, and to all of you who are joining on a Saturday afternoon, they're personal to all of you too. On the campaign trail, I often think of my parents, my parents who immigrated to the United States with nothing, but a seed of hope for a better future, to provide more opportunities for their family, chasing, as we all call the American dream, that if you work hard, play by the rules, that your dreams can come true, and also go to the Olympics one day. To me, that's essentially what's at stake, and why I'm so proud to support Joe Biden, because he fights for everyone, not just those on the top. As we have all said, AAPI voters are crucial to this election. Us, AAPIs, all of you, could really literally make the difference in close swing states like North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Vice President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris know that the Japanese Americans are a core part of the American story. Japanese Americans are artists and scientists, politicians, and entrepreneurs, students and teachers, business people and philosophers. They have contributed so much to strengthening America. It is evident in your stories, your parents' stories, your grandparents' stories of coming to and building lives in this great country. And now more than ever, we really need new leadership in the White House that ensures that Americans have the opportunity and means to succeed in America and support their families. But now, we face an administration that really devalues and ignores Japanese Americans, just as it does, all minority groups in the country. We have a president who is rolling back all the progress that has been advanced in this country. And that is why the next 38 days is just so critical. We need to build upon the Obama-Biden initiatives on AAPIs and strengthen the Pacific Island Task Force to ensure that we continue to support the lived experiences and issues of the Japanese American community. This is why it is important that not only the Japanese American community, but everybody, every single person, as we looked at 16, which I was part of the campaign, Hillary's campaign, presidential campaign, 65% of the able, voters, AAPI voters, did not vote. That's bonkers. We need to change that. We are critical in this election, and especially Japanese Americans. They could literally make the difference in close swing states like Ohio and Nevada specifically. So we must turn out, request your mail-in ballot, vote early. Like Senator Hirono said, do not vote often. But the two things that you can do is really simply check your registration status, and you can go to iwillvote.com and it'll walk you through everything. And then also make a voting plan and encourage your friends to vote. I hate to say this, but hound them, badger them, give them, that pep talk that they need. I know that I'm doing that. Yeah, Secretary Mineta, I know. Trust me, I'm doing that on my end, and proud to, because we do not want to have any regrets in 39 days. We had to keep our eye on the ball, guys. Again, sports analogy, it's having tunnel vision. We are in the fourth quarter, and we're gonna nail that triple sow cow. Ladies and gentlemen, we gotta do it. So we wanna make sure that November 4th, that instead of that on January 2021, when Joe Biden is taking the oath of office to be president of the United States, it's because of you. It's because of you that helped him get him there. So donate, check your registration status, go to iwillvote.com, make a voting plan, nudge your friends and family, volunteer as much as you can. I can give you a lot of homework, but just get involved. We've only got such a short amount of time. And thank you so much for what you're already doing. And before I go, I have to turn it over to Senator Harris. Unfortunately, she is unable to join in person, but she sent us this message to share with you. And she doesn't really need any introduction, but I'll share you with this thought. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris win in November, when they win, Kamala will be the first woman vice president and the first woman of color of the United States. Isn't that cool? So we'll hear from her now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to the Asian American and Pacific Islander community for all the work you are doing. Joe and I cannot thank you enough for your long-standing leadership in the AAPI community, both in this election and beyond. When my mother arrived in the United States from India, she understood that the core of her new home in America was that we not only strive for success, but to leave our country better than we found it. That's the approach she instilled in me, and I know many of you are working toward that same end. I don't need to tell you what is on the line in this race. Donald Trump reminds us every day who he is and how much worse it can get with a second term in office. Joe and I are ready to serve you, the people. We will restore honest leadership and implement a plan to get this pandemic under control. Our economic plan is built around working people, small businesses, and those who have been hit the hardest. We work to expand access to quality and affordable health care. We know that we are a nation of immigrants and will work to reform our immigration system. And of course, we will work to root out the systemic racism that still permeates in our courtrooms, our prisons, and in policing. We will win this race. We will build back better, and we will unite our country again, but only together, only with your help. So please keep pouring your energy into this race, because we know what's at stake in this election and we don't have a moment to waste. Thank you again for all you are doing. Let's keep up the pressure and let's bring this race home. Take care.
Thank you, Michelle Kwan. Thank you so much for giving us your time on a busy Saturday afternoon to share with us your message, your importance in knowing how to register to vote, in planning your vote, in voting early if you can, voting by mail if you can, and also inspiring others to exercise the use of their voices in this civil right known as voting. So thank you so very much. And also, we just heard from Senator, soon to be Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, who is a leader that we can count on, knowing that we're both from California. She's NorCal, I'm SoCal, Warriors versus Lakers forever. She will do the right thing alongside Joe, and she is representative of all the values that we stand for in our great country. And we need to keep on saying, go Joe, go Kamala, we are doing this for you. Now our next speaker is originally from Washington and moved to LA when she was 14 years old. Maki can be seen right now in Toy Story 4 as the voice of Giggle McDimples in Freeform's Marvel series, Cloak and Dagger as the brilliant scientist Mina Hess, and soon in Disney Plus's Home Alone reboot. In addition to her acting career, Maki has been very vocal, an activist in the importance of representation matters and diversity in Hollywood, especially for young women and the Gen X, the millennial generation. She is a necessary voice in hearing what the young people need, what the young people can do, what the young people want, in conjunction, linking arms with their elders across the Japanese American community and our community as Americans as a whole. It is my pleasure to introduce to you a fierce woman warrior who's also Japanese American, Ali Maki.
Wow, thank you so much, Tamlyn. I am absolutely so excited to be here. Thank you to the Japanese Americans for Biden team and the Biden-Harris campaign for having me. This is such an absolute honor. So like many Japanese Americans, my family has been here for generations. I am a proud fourth generation or Yonsei. There are so many things happening in the world right now, and so much of it is reminiscent of the stories that I heard during my childhood from my very own grandparents. My grandmother was incarcerated at Heart Mountain with over 100,000 others from our community, and my grandfather served in the 442nd Unit in the war while his girlfriend was imprisoned. Still to this very day, there is injustice. People are still fighting for their rights, fighting for equality, fighting to even be heard. From a very young age, I fell in love with acting and musical theater, which, as many of you will know, is not always a field that Asian parents want their kids to pursue. But I was very lucky to have parents who supported me and understood that for whatever reason, the stage or the screen or what have you was where I needed to be. It was ultimately a safe space that I could be myself in and fearlessly use my voice. As a Japanese American kid, I didn't really have that many Asian role models that I looked up to on screen, but thank you to both Tamlyn and Michelle for being two of them for me. It is because of women like you that I felt like my career could even be possible. I think that acting, theater, film, these all require you to be, to a certain extent, in the spotlight, which as a young girl growing up was something that was extremely uncomfortable for me. I was ashamed of my voice and what felt like the huge weight that falls underneath it. You know, there's that old Japanese proverb that says, the nail that sticks out shall be hammered down. And we all know that when we don't see ourselves represented, it can make you feel like your voice doesn't matter. I found myself always wanting to stay out of the way and defer to others, to be very polite. I did not recognize the importance of representation until later on in my life. How powerful it can be when you see yourself. And then I think of people like my grandparents, Mio and Brian, and the entire generation of Nisei people who sacrificed everything just so I could have the life that I do today. And it emboldens me. It makes me fearless. And yes, I'm scared all the time, but that fear can turn into power when we unite together. It is on us, the next generation and future generations, to keep their memories alive so that what happened in 1942 does not happen again. So in this November's election, sticking out is going to be so important. Japanese Americans, we need to stick out. We need to make sure that we are represented. Now is the time. And that's why I believe so strongly that as a community, we can come together to make a difference. We will no longer be ignored, as Michelle says. I'm so inspired and truly emotional that everyone has come out to make our voices heard, but I'm sure you know that it doesn't stop here. It does not stop today. We need to tell our friends, our family, our community to get out and vote. So let's get out there, join the phone banks, make some calls, donate what you can, of course, and let's build our future together. Biden-Harris 2020. Thank you so much for having me, and I will see you guys at the polls.
Thank you so very much, Ali, and thank you so very much for sharing your story. Actually, so you have that Heart Mountain connection, Norm has that Heart Mountain connection, I have that Heart Mountain connection. So we're all legacies of those internees or those incarcerees of Heart Mountain, and knowing that we as a community, as Japanese Americans, have received a brunt of civil rights injustices for the internment camps, that we know we can collectively work together in order to provide legislation under leaders like Senator Mineta and Senator Hirono in order to benefit not only Japanese Americans, but Americans across the nation. So thank you for your voice. Thank you for uplifting. And youngsters, listen to Ali Maki. She got it down. She knows what she's saying. I'm just the mother here, or the cool auntie. Well, not really cool, but Ali's got the word. So get out there and vote. join the phone banks, write postcards, or just have virtual Zoom meetings amongst your friends and family in order to discuss the issues that affect every single one of us. Today, we had the opportunity to hear from so many incredible leaders like Ali, like Senator Mazie Hirono, like Secretary Mineta, like Floyd and Amy Watanabe. And I hope that all of you know now that our voices are super powerful. They're super powerful. We're just not yasashi. We're just not, we're just not quiet. We're not shizukana. We are very important, and we are absolutely necessary as not only Japanese Americans, but under the umbrella of Asian American Pacific Islanders for Biden-Harris. We are necessary in order to win back the White House this November. And none of us should take this responsibility lightly. Reminding of all the events that have taken place through 2020 right now, we are all reminded of the great late Honorable John Lewis. And I want to challenge each and every single one of you with his charge to us. We need someone who will stand up and speak out for the people who need help, for people who are being discriminated against. And it doesn't matter whether you are Black or white, Latino, Asian, Pacific Islander, or Native American, whether you are gay or straight, Muslim, Christian, or Jew, the vote is precious. Know that it is precious. Your voice is precious. It is almost sacred in John Lewis's words. So go out and vote like your vote is never and vote like never before. The vote is the most powerful non-violent tool you have, that we have as citizens in our great country. And so tonight, I want to just echo what Ali was saying, is that we want everyone to participate in this democratic process known as voting and exercise two of our most powerful tools, our voice and our vote. Ching! Following the conclusion of this event, there are phone banks that Ali had mentioned to specifically Japanese American registered voters in the states of Arizona and North Carolina who are on the fence and waiting to hear from us, knowing that through the API 8 vote poll that was just released last week, that 60% of Asian Americans have not been contacted by either campaign. So let's roll up our sleeves. Girls, take off your earrings because we're going to get on the phone or write on the computer to those constituents, to those potential voters, to get out there and vote. Whew. Now I have the pleasure of introducing to you another Southern cowboy. We were just talking about making Japanese curry rice. This is Congressman Mark Takano from Riverside, California. In addition to serving as the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee and the House Education and Labor Committee, Chairman Nakano is also a member of the LGBTQ Equality Caucus, the Congressional Asian and Pacific American Caucus, the Progressive Caucus. You are so busy, man, and the U.S.-Japan Fellowship Committee. Congressman Mark Takano, would you please join us on our video today?
Hi, thank you for that, Tamlyn. What a pleasure to be here with you, to be here with Secretary Mineta, Senator Hirono, Michelle Kwan, Ali Maki, and just the tremendous work that's being done by Floyd and Amy and organizing Japanese Americans for Biden-Harris. Did we ever think that we'd ever see a president of the United States use a word like Kung Flu or call a virus that comes from nature, the China virus, intentionally to try and shift blame for the inadequate response that we've had in our country to coronavirus, that we have 200,000 of our fellow Americans who've perished because of this inadequate response. 7 million Americans who have been infected with COVID-19. That's 7 million Americans that now have a pre-existing condition, which this president wants to put in danger by naming a very conservative person to the Supreme Court that will rule the ACA unconstitutional. I never thought we would see this day. I was a middle school teacher, and I could imagine a middle school students saying Kung Flu at a time like this. But I could also imagine middle school students knowing enough to say that's wrong. That we have middle school students saying today, they have little kids in elementary school saying to each other, my mom said, don't be like Donald Trump. Don't be like Donald Trump. Don't bully people. Little kids have enough sense to know this. We must have the confidence that our fellow Americans, enough of them have the confidence and the good sense to turn this man out. Is there any doubt in our mind that Joe Biden or Kamala Harris will provide better leadership, that will put our country back in track, that will pave the way for a 21st century America that lives up to its ideals? 2020 is a poignant year for me as chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, because this year is the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. Last April, 75 years ago last April, my great uncle Manso Takahashi, who was from the Seattle area, was 23 years old when he gave his life in Massa, Italy. He died at age 23. And as you know, the 442nd motto was go for broke. Go for broke is a gambling term, which means give it all. Don't leave anything on the table. And these young men, and they were young men, they did give it all. And what did they bet on? They bet on the ideals of this country, even as this country was far from perfect. It was far from the perfect union. We had their my uncle's relatives, including my mom, who was like 2 years old, my father 3 years old. And by the way, my mother was at Heart Mountain as well. The consequences of that was that we had people going for broke, giving their lives, giving the ultimate sacrifice, even as their relatives were in internment camps. Always a poignant, emotional thing for me to think and talk about. And to hear Secretary Shinseki in my first month of office telling the story of the Battle of the Lost Battalion to a member of Congress who'd never heard about it, who was with me. And then turning to me and said, you, Mark Takano, would not be here today as a member of Congress were it not for the sacrifice of those young men. Needless to say, I was in tears and sobbing as I reflected on what Secretary then Shinseki said. So look, go for broke. Go for broke. We are fighting an authoritarian force. Just as my great uncle and all the men of the 442nd fought against Mussolini. They fought against Imperial Japan. They fought against Nazi Germany because they believed in the promise of this country, even though it was not perfect. And so I call upon all young people, especially Japanese Americans, review and remember this history. Reflect on the 23-year-old who made that decision to give his life for a country that was far from perfect. Our country is far from perfect now, but it is still worth betting your life on. It is still worth going for broke for. So I say go for broke for America. Go for broke for America in this election. Get on the text, get on the phone, and text like you've never texted before, as if your life depended on it, as if our democracy depended on it, as if we were fighting an authoritarian force that was menacing our country, because it is. That is what is at stake in this election. So God bless the men of the 442nd, but God bless all of you out there who care enough about our democracy to be on this call and to be on those Japanese American families in Nevada and in North Carolina, because you know what? It is so close in those two states. The Japanese Americans that you persuade, that you encourage, that you embolden, and that you get to make a voting plan and to actually participate in this election could be the margin of victory. So God bless you for what you're doing. Good luck, and go for broke.
Oh my God, that is perfect. As Japanese Americans specifically, we should all remember the legacy, the history of our community, of the boys of the 442-100th who did literally lay it all on the line, put everything out on the table. And we do need to, we're going to steal that, Congressman Takano. Go for broke.
Steal it, take it.
We gotta use it, man. We gotta steal it for all the young men and women who are out there, who are energized and mobilized and strategizing for the vote. And we gotta remind and be respectful of our elders who have already done the work, who have planted the seeds of civil rights and of equal rights. And just know that we are all connected, the dots that all are connected in this circle of this community known as Japanese Americans, AAPI Americans, Pacific Islander Americans, but Americans all across the country. Let's all go for broke for Biden-Harris. Oh my God, that's the new bumper sticker. Go for broke for Biden-Harris.
Right,
there we go.
right?
Thank you so much for that inspiring and uplifting and fierce message that's been in line with all the other speakers that we've had together today. I'd like to thank Amy Watanabe, Floyd Mori, Secretary Mineta, Norm, Senator Mazie Hirono, Michelle Kwan, Ali Maki, and of course you, Congressman Mark Takano. With the pandemic going on and everything shifting virtually and us just getting used to the idea of gathering together via Zoom or social media platforms, it's so important for us to figure out, to try to learn how to continually connect with the voters across this nation. And the recently released AAPI voter survey showed that less than 50% of AAPI voters, registered eligible voters, have not been contacted by our campaigns, by our campaign or the other guys. So we can't go knocking on each other's doors and going, hiya, genki desu ka? Or passing out flyers at Marukai or Hana or the other Asian American Pacific Islander grocery stores. So the importance of phone banking, of picking up our phones and calling them and having a personal conversation is even more heightened. It may be a little scary, but we just talk as people. There are messages out there that you're all familiar with. What is important to you? What is important to that voter that you're contacting? Is it the economy? We know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have that plan about healthcare and what we're going to do in the coming months dealing with COVID-19, dealing with this coronavirus, and dealing with the fallout of having been the recipients of anti-Asian racism specifically linked to this COVID-19 virus. Anti-racism, racial justice on behalf of all people of color, knowing that we're all in this together. We are stepping on the shoulders, being lifted and supported on the shoulders of people like John Lewis, of people like C.T. Vivian, of people like Elijah Cummings, Black men and Black women, Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Lee, that are continually fighting for all of us. We need to unite together, and Kamala Harris, being that Black American, that South Asian American, is going to help continually voice that message that we all need to unite under this wonderful flag. So on the screen that you will see right after I finish speaking, or as I am speaking, you will see various links to these phone banks in order to connect to those Japanese Americans who are registered voters and who are a little bit undecisive. We have this opportunity. Leave it all on the table. Go for broke. Pick up the phone and say, hi, I'm here calling you on behalf of the Biden-Harris campaign, and I'd just like to talk to you about what it is that you're concerned about and if you will vote. I encourage you to vote. It's all a conversation. So for the states of Arizona, specifically, you will see that you will have to register, and then you will receive an email immediately with another Zoom meeting link. So if you want to contact Japanese American voters in Arizona, register, click on the link that you'll see, and then you'll receive another email in your email box immediately with another Zoom meeting link. So that's specifically for Arizona. Go Mark Kelly. And for North Carolina, as soon as you click on the link, you will exit out and it will be immediately directed to the Zoom meeting. So if you want to go for Cal Cunningham in North Carolina, The process is going for North Carolina. Just click on the link and you'll be directed immediately to the Zoom meeting. But for Arizona, again, our next door neighbor, just register, look at your email box, and then you'll receive another Zoom meeting link. These links are also in the chat box. If you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a little icon that says chat, and I believe it's the second one, counting from the left. It says participants and chat, and you will see these links in the chat box. And also on the JA's for Biden Facebook page, JA's for Biden Facebook page. And I don't know about you, but I'm so super excited in hearing, and there's fire under our oshiris to get this boat rollout going. We need to burn it brightly. We have 38 days, as Michelle has reminded us. We have 38 days to really lay it out all on the table. Let's all go for broke. Let's honor the 442 guys. Let's honor the 100s. Let's honor all the women, the mothers, the daughters, all the siblings and families of those men as Japanese Americans, as proud Americans, to build back better with Joe and Kamala. So let's please, if you have the momentum, if you have the energy, please move on from this event to one of our phone banks. You'll be assisted. You won't be there alone. You'll be helped through. And it's happening now. This concludes our kickoff for Japanese Americans for Biden. Go for Japanese JAs for Biden as well. And hopefully you'll be inspired to continue on in the last of these 38 days to continue to make sure that we go vote blue. Thank you again to each and every one of the speakers. I am so inspired, as well as everybody else is inspired. And we will see each other at the phone banks. On November 4th, we'll awake to a hallelujah. And on January 20, 2021, we will see Joe Biden and Kamala Harris ascend to the White House and lead this country in a more forward, in a better, and in the right direction.